What's up, college football addicts? Today I'm going to talk to you about the future of the ACC and why I believe that the conference is about to implode. In fact, I'm going to give you three major reasons why the ACC is going to end up just like the Pac-12 very soon. Now, I know a lot of folks out there, maybe even some of you watching this, think that the grant of rights is ironclad, and that Florida State, North Carolina, and Clemson are just posturing, and that Florida State's court case is going to drag on for years. But I'm here to tell you guys that could not be more wrong. There's only one way the ACC can survive this, and I'm going to cover that in just a moment. But I can tell you it's probably not what you're thinking it is. And it has nothing to do with winning court cases. So the first reason the ACC is on the verge of imploding is something that we covered recently. And that is that in February of 2025, ESPN can unilaterally end the ACC's media deal. Let me repeat that for those in the back. In February of 2025, ESPN can unilaterally end the ACC's media deal. And when that media deal goes away, so does the grant of rights. But don't take my word for it.
ESPN does not hold some of the cards here. ESPN holds all of the cards because it is ESPN with which they have that deal as a conference, that grant of rights deal. That's who they're locked in with. And I can assure you, and they know what I'm about to say is true. They know there are certain key dates in the not too distant future where if ESPN really wanted to, they could pull one lever and that thing dissolves. And you know what happens if they pull that lever? Not only is Florida State free to go wherever they want to, but so is Virginia Tech, North Carolina. The ACC kind of dissolves, or at least it's up in the air. It's in a state of flux. And all of a sudden, the prison doors just open. And everyone, is this a psyop? Is this a test? And Florida State says, don't care, woo, and it's run down the hallway and they're out.
So this is strike one for the ACC. And it's crystal clear that ESPN holds all the cards as far as the ACC's future. Now, some of you out there are saying, why would ESPN snap their fingers and Thanos the ACC? They have FSU, North Carolina, and Clemson trapped for such a low amount. The truth of the matter is that some teams are worth more to ESPN in the SEC than they are in the ACC. And ESPN is going to make sure that teams land there. Also, if ESPN pulls that lever, all the pending legal fighting is going to become instantly pointless. Right now, you only have FSU in a legal fight with the ACC, but it won't be long before others join them in the battle. ESPN is not interested in getting dragged into a fight between the ACC and its high-value schools. ESPN is also not interested in fighting the state of Florida or the state of North Carolina and the politicians from those states. ESPN is not interested in high-value assets being tied up in legal fights for years. So they're very likely going to have to pull the lever to avoid all of the drama. And they are perfectly within their rights to do so. You see, the same contract the ACC's entire legal argument is based upon is the same contract that allows ESPN to end it whenever they like. So don't believe that one exists without the other. But this isn't the only reason that ESPN is about to likely pull that lever. Before we get to our next one, do me a quick favor. Hit that subscribe button. We've got some other conference realignment videos coming right now in the chamber that we're working on. Make sure that you're part of College Football Addiction and you don't miss them. The next reason the ACC is on the verge of imploding is because ESPN and Fox have now joined forces. And remember, ESPN owns the rights to the SEC and Fox owns the rights to the Big 10. So not only has ESPN and Fox joined forces, so have the Power 2, also known as the SEC and the Big 10. They just announced that they're forming a new streaming app, and they just announced that they would be working together to modernize governance for the Power 2. Because the NCAA is failing so badly. We've covered that a ton. And they both just walked out of the college football playoff negotiations and threw down the gauntlet, saying that they likely would not participate in the college football playoff after 2025 if the other conferences don't come to an agreement with them. And it won't be long before these other conferences eventually bend the knee, because their option is going to be to leave $6 million per team on the table or to go ahead and play ball with what the Big 10 and the SEC want. Starting their own playoffs will earn them less than half the revenue, so the smart conferences like the Big 12 will surely play ball. In fact, the money is going to force everyone to play ball, which gets back to the ACC. If the ACC wants to be cut in on the new Power 2 controlled playoffs, then they are going to need to do what the Power 2 wants them to do. And the Power 2 has their sights set on several of those ACC teams. So again, the ACC will have a choice. They can keep fighting and knuckle dragging and be excluded from the playoffs, which would cost them $6 million per team, or they can play nicely, settle, and wrap up these legal fights, and then move forward. It's not really much of a choice. In fact, you can argue that the choices here for them are only an illusion. The next reason the ACC is on the verge of imploding is because the cards FSU has already revealed in the legal case. Many lawyers that I speak with are already saying that they believe that the ACC is in big trouble. And again, we know more legal cases are on their way from other teams looking to exit. But just to go over some of the recent developments, in no particular order, Florida State has tossed the following battle axes into the ACC. Number one, the ACC ignored bylaws by suing Florida State without taking the required vote amongst conference members. This is likely going to lead to the case being dismissed in the state of North Carolina. At very least, the case will be stayed. Number two, they've dropped all kind of details on former ACC Commissioner Swofford and his sweetheart deal, which forced ACC teams into a deal with far less money solely to benefit Raycom Sports, where his son worked. And we've heard that Swofford is still involved with the ACC payroll, milking the conference for absolutely everything it's worth. Number three, the grant of rights was signed only by the FSU president, who had no standing to sign. Only the Florida State Board of Trustees can sign that contract by law in the state of Florida, so the contract may very well be invalid. I'm no lawyer, but I'm telling you guys, this is just the tip of the iceberg. A lot of very real legal arguments have been presented by the Seminoles and Florida State, and those legal arguments threaten to go far beyond the ACC and also drag ESPN into this. And remember what I said earlier. This is the same ACC who knows they can unilaterally pull one lever and essentially end all of these lawsuits. So finally, back to the beginning, I told you that there was a way that the ACC can survive what's coming. And it's not going to be what some of you want to hear, but it is the hard truth. The only way the ACC can survive is to play ball with ESPN and FOX and all the teams who are worth more in the Big 10 and the SEC than they are the ACC. The ACC needs to stop knuckle dragging and stop wasting resources, because the harder they fight, the more likely they are going to burn bridges and force others to use the power mentioned earlier in this video. And if you burn bridges and put ESPN and Fox in a position where they have to use their powers, then it's really opening the door for the Big 12 taking the remainder of your profitable assets and just leaving you out in the cold. So Wake Forest, Boston College, Syracuse, Georgia Tech, SMU, Stanford, you guys need to realize the best way to survive is sometimes letting go and taking what you are worth as opposed to trying to be greedy. Because pigs get fat, but hogs get slaughtered. And the Big 12 is praying you keep listening to Notre Dame and knuckle dragging this out. But just remember, Notre Dame is not going to be able to save you from what's coming if you continue this fight. I don't see a scenario where the ACC does get saved. I think there are too many stubborn voices in the room, but it will certainly be interesting to see. Hey, make sure that you click that subscribe button. I'm telling you, the ACC's days are numbered, and there will not be much more ACC football if they don't make some drastic changes. I appreciate you guys for tuning in, as always, to College Football Addiction.